So Tony Bellew just made short work of BJ Flores over in Liverpool. It was a 3-round technical knockout, I believe. The first round I actually gave to BJ Flores. I thought he started out behind the jab, but you could tell the last minute or so of that first round, Bellew started to land some body shots, and he was definitely the harder puncher. Flores' jab looked okay, but the right hand was crazy telegraphed. And even when he landed it, there was absolutely nothing on it. BJ Flores has never been a hard puncher. Kind of punches more with an amateur style. Never really transitioned over as a professional boxer type of puncher, right? But for Bellew, he dropped Flores in the second round with a low blow, and the referee, Ian John Lewis, totally blew the call. It was pretty blatant low blow. It wasn't on purpose. It was accidental. But Flores took a knee, and the ref completely missed it. Didn't even consult the fighter to see what happened. Just basically, it was a shady first knockdown. I thought the ref blew a call. But BJ Flores was looking to the ref to bail him out, right? So you never do that. And it shows me from the jump that BJ Flores' mind wasn't really in the fight once he started to get hit with harder shots from Tony Bellew. He had trouble making the weight. He had to boil down a lot. He looked really soft in the fight. Not that Bellew's a body beautiful himself, but BJ Flores, the writing was on the wall at that point. I believe he ended up being dropped 3 times in that second round. Then in the third round, Bellew fought very sloppy and too excited, I thought, in the second round. He settled down in the third round, worked behind the jab, trying to set up some shots. He took some punches. He got wild in spots, but he landed a nice counter hook halfway through the round, I believe, as BJ Flores actually landed one. Tony Bellew landed a counter left hook. His was a lot harder, right in the button, and Flores went down to a knee, and he basically let himself be counted out. So that was it. But that's not the story here, right? It was a nice homecoming for Bellew in front of the fans. He really soaked in the moment, and everyone was excited with his performance. But the real story is that ringside, David Haye, who was actually helping call the fight for Sky Sports, he's good friends with BJ Flores. They spar together, they train together. He's known him for a while. And he publicly said that he was backing Flores and that he thought BJ Flores was going to win the fight. And there's been a lot of trash talk between David Haye and Tony Bellew going back a while now. And rumors about, sparring in amateur days and all kinds of stuff. Tony Bellew got in his ass. Not even before the fight was done. Like pretty much with every knockdown of BJ Flores, he turned right to David Haye and was talking shit. That's how confident he was. And I think that's part of why he fought so sloppy, by the way, and took some shots from Flores. He wasn't afraid of anything coming at him, right? But he got in David Haye's ass. As soon as the fight was over, he ran over to that side of the ring and started talking a ton of shit. And then even in the post-fight interview right there in the ring, he really talked a lot of shit. He was calling David Haye SpongeBob because of the haircut, the poofy haircut. He was calling him like SpongeBob SquarePants. And like at one point, it was like, I'll put you and that pathetic haircut to sleep. And the whole fucking crowd went nuts. It was pretty great, man. The British fighters, they know how to promote a fight. And Eddie Hearn with Matchroom was right there, the best promoter in the business right now. And they went to him, the Sky Sports guys went to him and said, are you going to make this fight? What's up? And Eddie Hearn basically said, you guys don't need me. These two will make the damn fight and they'll promote it. You don't even need me. Now, obviously, Hearn is trolling. Yeah, he wants to make the damn fight. He knows what's going on. And I do think that some of it was showmanship from Bellew and everything. For the record, and to his credit, David Haye didn't fall into any of that stuff. And the Sky Sports guys talked to him after all the trash talk was done and Bellew had left the ring and everything. And David was very calm and classy and gave Bellew credit for his performance. But he noted the defensive lapses, the defensive liabilities. He noted that Bellew is a cruiserweight and that if that fight was going to happen between Haye and Bellew, Tony's going to have to move up. Right? Because David Haye has been at heavyweight since, 2007, almost 10 years. So he's not going back down. So Bellew, who started, remember, as a light heavyweight, would have to move up. He's already moved up once to cruiserweight, just settling in there. I believe he only moved to cruiserweight in 2014. It's only been a couple years. He'd have to move up to heavyweight. But Bellew really wants that fight. And the fans really seem to be eating it up. Everyone's interested in it. I just wanted to break down some of the X's and O's of it, right? Because at first, when I first heard about the possibility of that fight, and by the way, I do think it's going to happen because David Haye, all he cares about is big money fights. And I think Bellew is trying to capitalize on some of the fame he got from doing the Creed film, right? He was a big role for him in that film. And he's won this WBC title at cruiserweight, and he's ready for that big money fight himself. Both of these guys want it. I do think it happens probably next year. But when they first talked about it, I thought, you know what? This is a mismatch. Bellew's been dropped several times, and he's not very good defensively. And I think his power is overrated because it's not like he seriously hurt BJ Flores. And by the time he landed that counter hook, BJ was pretty much softened up, and he was pretty much done at that point anyway. I've just never seen him as a really, really big power punching guy. David Haye, I think his power is overrated as well, but he does possess that what I call burst power, where he hits you with those fast shots you don't see coming that kind of jolt your system. It's not that heavy-handed kind of power that, heavyweights like Vladimir Klitschko and those kind of guys have, like one punch KO power, but Haye has that shocking kind of power that will jolt you. And guys with a good chin can take it, but guys with a shaky chin, he could get them out of there. So anyway, when people started talking about that fight, I wasn't really interested in it. But then I started thinking about this. David Haye he didn't fight between 2012, well, halfway through 2012 until this year, right? He was basically laid off for 4 years, semi-retired. He's taken 2 fights this year against garbage opponents. Bellew, in that same time span that Haye has only fought twice, he's fought 13 times. Today against Flores was his 13th fight in that same time span. So he's the much busier, fresher guy. And Bellew hasn't necessarily been fighting nothing but world beaters, but he has fought some decent quality fighters, right? He was stopped against Adonis Stevenson, but that was at light heavyweight. And Bellew is a tall guy. He's 6'3". In fact, they list David Haye at 6'3", but I think Bellew is a real 6'3". I think they bumped David Haye up. I've seen him, met him a couple times in person, and he was a lot shorter than me, and I'm 6'4". So I think Haye's closer to 6'1", to be honest with you. I think Bellew's the taller guy. So maybe he was drained a little bit at light heavyweight, and maybe he takes a shot better at cruiserweight because he's filled in a little more. Maybe he'd take a shot better at heavyweight. I don't know. But I do think that Bellew's the taller guy, the fresher guy, but unquestionably, David Haye is the stronger, more powerful, more athletic, faster guy. One X factor here is Bellew's kickboxing background. Back in his amateur days, before the boxing, he actually did some kickboxing, and he had a very respectable amateur record as a kickboxer. And that gives him that awkward stance and that awkward style. It works for him in spots because he rolls with punches. He does a lot of dipping and rolling and stuff. And he was doing that against Flores. And Flores was landing shots, but like I said, nothing was on him. But what if David Haye lands one of those shots? I don't know. With Haye, one thing about him always has been one punch at a time. So I could see a scenario where if Bellew came in very, very good shape, prepared to go the distance, the full 10 rounds, or maybe some stupid vacant title would be in place and it'd be 12 rounds. I doubt it. It'd probably be a 10-rounder. But if he strategized to go 10 rounds and box with Haye and stay at a distance, when Bellew is at a good distance from a guy, he sees right hands coming very well and he slips them. He actually just dips back from them and he gets away with it because of his height. He was doing that early against BJ Flores. You can jab Bellew, but when you wind up with a right hand, if he's at a distance, he's very, very good at jumping back and getting just out of range for it and making you reach. And I think he can make David Haye reach 4, 5, 6 rounds and get him tired. I could see that happening. And then with that crazy, awkward, somewhat kickboxing type of stance and style he has, maybe he could make things awkward for David Haye. I think it could be pretty interesting. But having said all that, it's an interesting fight. I really don't I just hope it doesn't happen. I know it would be a pretty big domestic fight in the UK. It'd be fun. The promotion would be outstanding. But what does it do for the sport? It makes both guys big money. It's a big event for a while. Okay, but look at the cruiserweight division right now. You've got a few fighters with titles. At the top of the division, there's some real talent. You've got Denis Lebedev, you've got Alexander Usyk, and then you've got Tony Bellew. Those are like the three guys, and there's a few other quality fighters as well. But there's no title unification right now. Not a clear number one guy in the division, right? There's kind of a few titles at play that need to be unified. You guys know I always talk about this. I think the cruiserweight's very underrated and underappreciated, but one of the biggest reasons is because nobody stays there, sets that precedent, and unifies all the titles, and does what we've seen so many fighters do at middleweight, at light heavyweight, even at heavyweight, what Vladimir Klitschko just did over the past decade at heavyweight. What Gennady's doing right now at middleweight. That needs to be done at cruiserweight. There needs to be that guy that stays there. And with UK boxing being so red hot right now and the crowds being so good, Tony Bellew could lure opponents to come to the UK to unify titles. He's got that WBC title, but wouldn't it be great to see him unify titles with guys like Lebedev, Usyk, all the other guys who either have titles or are going to be having titles in the next couple of years? I'd rather see that than him move up to heavyweight and fight David Haye in a fight that he could possibly be competitive in because of all the reasons I stated before, especially David Haye, who's a little softer now than he used to look, but also the inactivity, right, and the level of opposition. But one punch from Haye could end that fight. And when these guys from cruiserweight go up to heavyweight for a money fight to make some cash, they never come back down. There's no such thing as a one-off. We've talked about guys like Golovkin's talked about moving up to 168 for a one-off, for a big money fight, if there was one there, like Carl Froch or somebody, and then coming back down to 160. We've seen other fighters do that. Floyd Mayweather did it all the time, right? Manny Pacquiao's done it. But these guys at heavyweight, man, once you go above 200 pounds and you're a big dude, you're 6 feet taller or more, you're 200 pounds or more, it's really, really hard to go back down, especially once you start making that heavyweight kind of money and getting that heavyweight kind of attention. So if Bellew moves up to heavyweight, he's going to get the payday of his career, but I just feel it's going to kind of ruin his career. He's not a heavyweight. I think David Haye is a small heavyweight in today's era. He really is. Tony Bellew would be really, really undersized. He has good height, but that's about it. Remember, he started as a light heavyweight. So all this being said, we probably are going to get Tony Bellew, David Haye in the first quarter of next year over there. It's going to be a big event. It's going to be a lot of fun. And if they can do a co-feature or something, if somehow they can combine that as the co-feature to an Anthony Joshua card, that would be awesome. But what does it do for either guy? David Haye, as far as I'm concerned, as a heavyweight, has mostly been a fraud. He was an outstanding cruiserweight. But he moved up to heavyweight, wiggled his way into a title, dangled the carrot in front of Klitschko for that big name opponent for a couple of years, pulled a bunch of polished tricks and posing and, stalling, and then went in there and just laid an egg and blamed it on a pinky toe and has done shit since. He's won some fun domestic level fights like against Derek Chisora a few years ago. That was really his calling card as a heavyweight. But what has he done, man? Do we really want to see Bellew ruin what could be a really, really entertaining, meaningful, impactful cruiserweight title reign to move up to heavyweight to make some cash and probably get knocked out? Is that what we really want to see? And David Haye has kind of made a career for himself, at least at heavyweight, luring guys into those kind of fights. If you just look at his matchmaking over the years, that's kind of what he's been doing. Bellew shouldn't buy into that. But that's just my 2 cents. Let me know what you guys think. Comment below, like, share, subscribe. Let's get the argument started.